Welcome, welcome, welcome to the dungeon. This is another off Mandrel series. Today we're going to make a deer, and this is definitely a more advanced piece, so be kind to yourself when and if you try this at home. Make sure that you can do the mouse very easily before attempting what I'm doing here, which is gathering up some glass like I did the mouse, and then just letting it fall to one side. And now what I'm going to do is, while the body of this deer is still warm, I want to make all the attachments that come off the body first. The small attachments like the tail. I'm going to do that first because that's a really nice hot part of the glass. And then I'm going to go in and start to put the forearms in again, because I want to get a little bit more heat back up into that neck area, but I don't want to actually heat or put a whole bunch of the glass like right into the flame. I'm just barely heating up the areas that I'm about to touch the glass to. It took me years to figure this out, so everybody calm down. Don't freak out when you do this. The main thing here is trust. Trust your instincts and trust the glass. Do not go back in and reheat any of this at this point, okay? All you're doing here is working off of those little tiny points that were made from the forearms, okay? That's the big trick. And then when you're pulling out these long areas, you really need to know how much glass you're getting hot and how much time you have to actually pull out those arms and legs. Okay. And if anything happens during this time, don't get frustrated and don't worry about the fact that you're, losing a lot of material here. You're not wasting the glass. You are basically learning. So you have to, you got to break it to make it. You have to learn how to deal with this. So anybody that wants to learn the off-mandrel process needs to know how to pull out appendages. And that's what this is all about, is learning how to pull out long and short appendages. The legs, I'm just adding a humongous wad and then gently pulling it out, almost like you would pull out a stringer, but letting gravity really, really help me out here. I'm putting on a little bit of tail, and I do pull out like this, pulling out just from the tip of the heat to a cooler part, and that will allow me to get nicer tips on the end. But we're going to put some feet on this guy, so I'm just going to wrap a little bit of glass, again not touching anything except for just a second where that foot is going to be. Now I'm going to do this on the other two, and then we're going to work on the head part. So here we go. And I'm just flattening each foot out just a little tiny bit. If all 4 feet don't stand, that's okay. 3 feet, that'll make it stand just fine. And what I'm doing here is I'm just adding a very tiny punty, and then I'll begin to work on heating off the top rod for the head. And I heat it off higher than you would think, a few inches, so I have enough glass to kind of start melting down. And if I have too much, I can pull that off, and then I can start kind of working on the face. And you'll notice here in a second, after I pull a little nose out of the face, that the tail pops off. And what happened was I'm trying to add these little tiny parts here, and somehow I grazed the tail in the flame, and it just pops right off. So I'm working on the nose, and then what I want to do is put antlers on. So it doesn't work out so well at first, and you'll see why. So I'm going to add, and because the head is still hot, I'm going to add the first 2 parts of the antler ears, or ears of the antlers themselves, and that's where my tail falls off. And then I get distracted by that, so I just kind of end up after one of the other antlers falls off, I end up just taking them down. There we go. I just am like, okay, let's start over again, because I am still working on these little points. Okay, I'm not working and trying to heat up anything really big. So in real time, here I am pulling out and also letting gravity help me with the curve that I need. And if you can pull it out and then put it into place and let it cool and freeze like that, you're doing pretty good. So let's try that again. I'm going to pull out and then just let it. The second one, I don't know why. I always have a problem with. Anyway, try to give a nice curve on that. And then we'll add the second 2, which are a little longer. And you see how as the glass is stiffening up, I'm just finishing the curve that needs to happen. So I'm thinking ahead of myself here while I'm doing this, knowing that, I'm going to have to pull that glass out. And here I do the same thing as I did with the antlers. I just kind of take that down to a nub, and then I try to pull out another decent looking tail. And so I'm pulling that out and twisting at the same time. So I'm happy here, at least as happy as I can be, and because it is really a one-shot deal with these things. So I'm just taking off the punty right now. There was a little bit left over, so I'm just going to nip that off with a very tiny flame and make sure it stands okay, and that's it. No annealing necessary. Thanks for watching. See you next time.